Welcome to NTD Newsroom. I'm Don Ma. Later this afternoon, President Trump will attend a swearing-in ceremony for Andrew Puzder as U.S. ambassador to the EU. We discuss U.S.-EU relations ahead of the event with a foreign policy analyst. NATO defense chiefs are holding another Ukraine meeting discussing security guarantees. At the same time, the U.S. is working to end the war and set up a trilateral leaders meeting. The Justice Department opens an investigation into Washington, D.C.'s crime data. The DOJ says local officials manipulated statistics. Texas lawmakers are debating a new controversial map. Redrawn lines sparked a domino effect around the nation. Nebraska has announced plans to open a new detention center for illegal immigrants, and DHS Secretary Kristi Noem says the southern border wall will be painted black to deter illegal crossings. We have the details. The U.S. plans to build a nuclear reactor on the moon. Why does the race back to the moon matter so much for the United States right now? Dozens of swimmers rescued, life-threatening rip currents and evacuation orders. Hurricane Erin wreaks havoc despite remaining far offshore.
This is NTD Newsroom, live from our global headquarters in New York City.
Good afternoon, and thanks for joining us this Thursday. Western allies continue working on peace in Ukraine at full speed. Multiple meetings are happening simultaneously, trying to arrange a trilateral leaders meeting while also working on security guarantees for Ukraine. NATO defense chiefs are set to hold a virtual meeting today as Western countries push for an end to the war. This includes agreeing on security guarantees for Kyiv. Russia's foreign minister commented on that today, saying Russia has to be involved in the process. According to the Kremlin, not including Moscow in security talks won't yield any results. Today's meeting comes after the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff reportedly hosted several European defense chiefs yesterday evening. That's according to NBC, which also reports that the White House is working to secure a location for a trilateral leaders meeting. President Trump wants to meet with Russia's Vladimir Putin and Ukraine's Volodymyr Zelenskyy. Possible locations are Geneva in Switzerland and Budapest in Hungary. Switzerland has been historically neutral, while Hungary has good relations with both the U.S. and Russia. Today's Vice President J.D. Vance and the Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth visited National Guard soldiers at Union Station in the nation's capital. Inside, they thanked the troops for their efforts to make Washington, D.C. safer, while outside protesters could be heard shouting in the background.
And I think that if we set a standard in Washington, D.C., that political willpower can bring some common sense, law and order back to these communities, then maybe some other communities and other cities will follow suit. So it's kind of crazy. You hear these guys outside. They appear to hate the idea that Americans can enjoy their communities.
Vance thanked the National Guard and local police for their progress toward improving safety in the capital. He said that over the past 9 days, they're already seeing really substantial effects. Vance noted that violent crime dropped 35% and robberies are down 50%. He said the troops and the police are bringing law and order back to communities. The vice president said this is so families can feel safe to bring their kids to visit and people can enjoy the capital's architecture and monuments. President Trump deployed hundreds of National Guard soldiers to Washington, D.C. after he declared a public safety emergency in the capital to tackle crime and homelessness.
Committed to this mission just like the one at the southern border and in Los Angeles. Our law enforcement officers deserve to be able to do their job safely, and American citizens, putting American citizens and our country first, is something President Trump has emphasized from the beginning.
The Justice Department is investigating whether police officials in Washington, D.C. have falsified crime statistics. The DOJ says D.C. authorities manipulated data to make crime rates appear lower. The investigation comes amid a showdown between the Trump administration and the city over control of the police department. Earlier this year, a Metropolitan Police Department commander suspected of manipulating crime stats was placed on administrative leave. President Trump federalized D.C.'s police force earlier this month, arguing the district hasn't done enough to curb crime. Trump has ordered National Guard troops into the city, with several Republican states sending their own National Guard personnel to assist. Attorney General Pam Bondi said more than 400 arrests have been made since the Guard was deployed. Meanwhile, the U.S. Marshals announced a $500 reward for tips that lead to an arrest in the nation's capital. Texas lawmakers are debating a bill that will redraw congressional districts, giving Republicans a better chance to win 5 more congressional seats. Several Democrats spent the night in the state's capital in protest. NTD's Melina Weisskopf has the story.
Texas lawmakers met quorum today, on track to approve a new map that redraws lines for congressional districts. The map is controversial. Democrats say it's unconstitutional, and they filed a lawsuit to block it.
These are brand new maps. These are brand new maps that the public has not been able to weigh in on.
Several Democrats joined State Representative Nicole Collier in staying overnight on the House floor. They're protesting the map and the 24-hour police surveillance they were subject to upon returning to the state. This is after they fled for 2 weeks prior to delay the vote.
I just don't feel comfortable. I feel like this is wrong, that they are exercising this type of control over another person just to get what they want.
House Speaker Dustin Burrows announced at the start of the session that the doors will be locked until the vote is complete.
The doors to the chamber will remain locked until the call is expired.
Democrats quickly lined up in opposition, pushing to first pass a bill to address recent flooding in Texas.
Did the Speaker of this body make a commitment to the family of the victims of the flood to put flood relief first, make it a priority this special session?
Ms. Hinojosa, that is not a proper parliamentary.
Democrat activists stood outside of the floor Wednesday as lawmakers took up the new map. Last night, police evacuated the public from the Capitol grounds after a threatening social media post called for someone to go to the Capitol building and take action by shooting and killing those who will not allow lawmakers to leave. Democrats have condemned acts of violence. Governor Greg Abbott said the bill should be ready for him to sign by the end of this week.
What Texas is doing, we're just drawing fair maps as allowed by law, and it will ensure that at least 5 more members of Republicans will be serving in the United States Congress.
Texas's action has sparked a domino effect around the nation. California is moving to bypass their independent commission and redraw their state lines. The proposed California map is meant to offset potential Republican gains in Texas, and it could endanger 5 sitting House Republican representatives. One of the lawmakers impacted is now calling on the U.S. House Speaker Mike Johnson to hold a vote aimed at banning mid-decade redistricting in all states.
When Congress gets back in 2 weeks, I'm going to be using every possible measure that I can to get the bill to the floor.
Voters in California this November will make the final call as to whether the Democrats' new map can be enacted. Republicans have filed a lawsuit aimed at blocking the proposed California map. Reporting from Washington, D.C., Melina Weisskopf, NTD News.
President Trump is calling on Federal Reserve Governor Lisa Cook to resign over accusations of mortgage fraud. The allegations were made on X by the director of the U.S. Federal Housing Finance Agency. In the Post, Bill Pulte alleged that Cook had designated a condo in Atlanta as her primary residence after taking a loan on her Michigan home, which she also declared as her primary residence. Loans for a primary residence can carry easier terms than for second homes or investment properties. President Trump wrote on Truth Social, Cook must resign now. Pulte called on the Attorney General to investigate. The Justice Department said it was taking the matter very seriously. Over to the Federal Reserve, potential candidate interviews for the post of the Reserve's new chairman will be happening soon. Here's Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent speaking on CNBC yesterday.
In terms of the interview process, we've announced 11 very strong candidates. I'm going to be meeting with them probably right before, right after Labor Day, and to start bringing down the list to present to President Trump. And it's an incredible group. It's people who are at the Fed now, have been at the Fed and private sector. So I'm looking forward to meeting all of them with a very open mind.
The Fed chair is nominated by the president for a 4-year term and must be confirmed by the Senate. The term of the current Fed chair, Jerome Powell, is set to expire in May 2026. Multiple names have been rumored to be taking over as Powell's successor, including former Fed Governor Kevin Warsh, current Fed board member Christopher Waller, and director of the National Economic Council Kevin Hassett. President Trump has been at odds with Powell over the issue of interest rate cuts. Dozens of current and former intelligence community officials have had their security clearance and any government employment terminated. National Intelligence Director Tulsi Gabbard yesterday announced the moves against 37 individuals for allegedly politicizing and manipulating intelligence, among other allegations. Gabbard wrote on X that a security clearance is a privilege, not a right. She said those who betray their oath to the Constitution and put their own interests ahead of the interests of the American people have broken the sacred trust they promised to uphold. Gabbard said the move was being carried out at President Trump's direction. The decision means the 37 affected officials will no longer be able to access classified systems, facilities, materials, and information, and they will have their employment or contracts with the government immediately terminated. Gabbard accused the officials of abusing the public trust, leaking classified intelligence without authorization, and committing intentional egregious violations of tradecraft standards. Museums in the U.S. are under scrutiny. President Trump has instructed legal experts to review what he called woke installations in museums nationwide. Trump wrote yesterday on Truth Social that museums are the last remaining segment of woke. Trump singled out the Smithsonian, saying it's out of control. He said the museum places too much focus on the negative parts of U.S. history while downplaying the positives. The president said the Smithsonian has come under the influence of a divisive, race-centered ideology in recent years. Trump also accused the museum of promoting narratives that portray American and Western values as harmful and oppressive. The Smithsonian says it is reviewing a letter from Trump on the matter and will collaborate constructively with the White House. Andrew Pudster will be sworn in as U.S. ambassador to the EU today. Joining us now to discuss U.S.-EU relations ahead of the event is Brian Leib, foreign policy analyst and CEO of Henry Public Relations. First of all, good afternoon to you, Brian. How are you doing today?
I'm good, Don. Thanks so much. Good to be back with you.
Yeah, good to have you as always, Brian. So Monday's meetings, if you remember, at the White House underscored a display of unity and cooperation between the U.S. and European allies, particularly regarding support for Ukraine, right, against Russian aggression. How do you think these talks will shape the future of the U.S.-EU relationship?
Well, listen, let's be clear. President Trump has 100% redefined what our relationship looks like with Europe. He has demanded fairness, demanded accountability, ended the days of the U.S. Serving as what a lot of people would say was Europe's piggy bank. It was President Trump that pressed NATO allies to finally meet, their defense commitments and pay their fair share on trade. He stood up to what the EU was doing, securing better terms for American farmers, American businesses, and workers here in America. And the end result was a Europe that now really respects America's strength more than ever before, rather than just assuming, Don, that we're going to be giving endless concessions over and over and over again. We saw what happened just a couple days ago with all of these major European leaders coming, and you see them on the screen there, coming to the White House hat in hand to help make a deal. So only President Trump could bring them together. And by the way, the most recent trade deal, just for your audience to understand, it's bringing $600 billion in direct investment over the next 3.5 years from the EU into the U.S. markets, and also over $750 billion in direct energy purchases as well. So President Trump has definitely shown, I think, the EU that there's a new sheriff in town.
Okay, some points I would like to get into, and you mentioned the fact that European leaders now respect President Trump and the U.S. Now, if you remember, President Trump has had a relationship with Europe that's had its ups and downs, right? He's previously criticized and sometimes NATO and sometimes EU leaders on certain issues. So what's different now? What do you think made this show of unity possible now?
Well, listen, I think President Trump has shown in just the last 6 months what he's been able to do. I mean, we were talking on your program, I think just about a week or a week and a half ago, about how President Trump brought the leaders of Armenia and Azerbaijan together to make a historic peace deal. I mean, President Trump is making deals, he's making trade deals, he's making peace deals, and the world is noticing. You know, it was always so interesting to me when you would hear certain pundits in this country say things like the world was laughing at President Trump during his first term. First of all, I don't think they were laughing, but even if they were, they're definitely not laughing anymore. I mean, you see what's happening. The European leaders are doing anything they possibly can to get into President Trump's good graces, and they should. I mean, we're a powerhouse. We're an economic powerhouse. We're a military powerhouse, and doing business with America is a privilege, not a right. And I think that President Trump has signaled that message out into the world. And listen, we've seen what happened with the trade deals that are going on, with the incoming tariffs, hundreds of billions of dollars. So President Trump has put America back on the world stage.
And to that point of trade deals, and you also mentioned ending the war between Azerbaijan and Armenia. I think it's worth talking about that a little bit more. Can you speak to what stands out to you about Trump's approach to negotiations? You've said before on this program that he's the best deal maker there is. And within just 6 months, he ended multiple wars. We mentioned the Azerbaijan one, but there's also the Congo, Rwanda conflict, and others as well. So speak to that.
You know, President Trump's the ultimate deal maker. You know, he was a private sector business guy for his entire career, a New York, business guy in the real estate world. And, when you're doing deals in the real estate world, you're not asking people, hey, would you please do this? Would you pretty please do that? You're strong, you're forceful. And we've seen that with President Trump's foreign policy. His peace through strength mantra really is the calling card for success. It has redefined American diplomacy, really, in just such a big way. So, President Trump's a deal maker. He has been his whole life. And we've seen, you mentioned some of the other, wars and conflicts that he's brought to an end. And of course, we're all waiting to see what Abraham Accords 2.0 is going to look like, with what additional Arab countries are potentially going to make peace with Israel. I think that's going to be coming very soon here. So, President Trump, he's the commander in chief. He's also the peacemaker in chief. He's also the deal maker in chief. I don't know how the guy does it at the age that he's at, but he just keeps going and going and going. And the American people are starting to really feel the benefit of having a real leader back in the White House finally.
And let's not forget, there's another factor. If Trump succeeds in brokering a peace deal between Ukraine and Russia, that could further impact European relations with the U.S.
Well, it certainly could. It really would, again, position us as being the adults in the room and bringing all these world leaders together. And I just want to also mention, I know there's been some reports that Budapest, Hungary, might potentially be a location for this summit. Now, I'm someone that's very involved in U.S.-Hungary relations. I've been to Budapest many times. I personally just want to say, if President Trump is listening or watching, that I think it would be an amazing idea for Budapest. I think it's an ideal location for that trilateral summit. Budapest and Hungary really kind of stand at the crossroad of the East and the West. And, under the leadership of their Prime Minister, Viktor Orban, they've really become a strong voice in Europe for sovereignty, protecting their borders, security in their country, and traditional values. So I think it would send a very powerful signal to all of Europe if President Trump decided, of course, with President Zelenskyy and President Putin to have the summit in Budapest. So that would be fun to see.
So, Brian, I don't want to take up too much of your time, but I also wanted to talk to you about the new U.S. ambassador to the EU that's going to be sworn in later today. What do you think is the role that he's going to play in this next phase of U.S.-EU relationship?
Well, I think he's a fantastic pick. I mean, this is an individual that was a titan of industry, a huge business leader, and that's what it's going to take to go into the EU. We need a business leader just similar to President Trump. I mean, as we look ahead and, looking at President Trump's second term, and especially with this new ambassador coming in to the EU, I think it's really, Don, going to reset the transatlantic partnership on a foundation of strength and mutual respect. We've heard a lot of people talk about how America first is an isolationist movement, and it's not. America first does not mean America alone, and it means that alliances, we have to have alliances where both sides are carrying, their share of the burden. And with President Trump and with his new ambassador to the EU, I think our partners in Europe can expect, fair trade, a stronger NATO, and a unified front against the bad actors out there in the world, like the CCP, like the Islamic Republic of Iran. And as I mentioned earlier, President Trump's peace through strength mantra and his approach, it works, and it's restoring American leadership on the world stage, and one that I think Europe responds to. So, if the European leaders are smart, and I think they are, because we saw how many of them came to the White House on very short notice, they would get behind President Trump, and they would get on Team America right now before the train leaves the station. But I think the new ambassador to the EU is going to do a fantastic job, and he's going to be President Trump's man in the EU, making sure that the EU isn't taking advantage of us anymore.
Well, Brian, well said, as always. Thank you very much for your time today.
Thanks so much, Don. Have a good afternoon.
You as well. Coming up, dozens of swimmers rescued, life-threatening rip currents and evacuation orders. Hurricane Erin wreaks havoc despite remaining far offshore. Don't go away.
What if kids in America didn't have to go to bed hungry tonight? What if our moms, dads, and grandparents could put healthy food on the table every day to help us grow strong? What if all of our friends and neighbors had fresh food too, and there was no hunger at all in America? And what if there was a way today for you to help? Call now or go online to helpfeedingamerica.org and give $19 a month, just 63 cents a day. So many of us don't have enough food to eat, but your monthly gift means families across the country and in your community can fill plates with food. Kids can get healthy meals year-round, even when school's out, and our neighbors can have fresh food. Food that moms, dads, entire families need to thrive. But right now, more people are facing hunger. Feeding America works from coast to coast with partner food banks, food pantries, and meal programs. It takes all of us to make that happen. Will you help too? Please call the number on your screen or go online to helpfeedingamerica.org and give just $19 a month, and we'll send you this free canvas grocery bag. It's our way of saying thank you for helping to end hunger for our neighbors. Because no kid, no mom or dad, nobody should go hungry in America. Nobody. So what if today was the day you could help nourish futures for our friends, our families, for all of us? Ending hunger is possible. What if we end it together? Call or give online today at helpfeedingamerica.org and your gift can be doubled. Thank you.
Is deep sea fish oil really healthy? Due to pollution in the oceans, most fish contain heavy metal elements and radioactive substances. That's why it's so important to choose a pure source of omega-3. Puritang green vegetable omega-3 is made from purslane and perilla seeds, which are rich in nutrients and minerals, especially vitamins A, D, E, calcium, and iron. With natural processing and no harmful chemical additives, it has more than 90% concentration of omegas 3, 6, 7, and 9. It effectively improves brain power and is beneficial to the heart's health. Puritang omega-3 does not smell of fish and contains no pollutants, so both adults and children can safely and easily consume it over a long period of time. Puritang green vegetable omega-3, greener, healthier, and more effective. Visit puritang.com to learn more.
Hurricane Erin continues to threaten the East Coast. The storm has stirred up treacherous waves that have already led to dozens of water rescues and shut down beaches. NTD's Daniel Monahan has more on the storm disruptions, the final days of summer.
Forecasters remain confident the center of the powerful storm will remain far offshore. But the outer edges are likely to bring damaging tropical force winds, large swells, and life-threatening rip currents into Friday. Warnings about rip currents have been posted from Florida to the New England coast, and the biggest swells along the East Coast are expected over the coming 2 days. Rough ocean conditions have already been seen along the coast. At least 60 swimmers were rescued from rip currents Monday at Wrightsville Beach, near Wilmington, North Carolina. New York City closed its beaches to swimming on Wednesday and Thursday, and New York Governor Kathy Hochul ordered 3 state beaches on Long Island to prohibit swimming through Thursday. Several New Jersey beaches will also be off limits. Off Massachusetts, Nantucket Island could see waves of more than 10 feet later this week. But the biggest threat is along the barrier islands of North Carolina's Outer Banks, where evacuations have been ordered.
We've now issued a storm surge warning for the Outer Banks of North Carolina from Cape Lookout up through Cape Hatteras, all the rest of Dare County up to Duck. This means there's the danger of life-threatening inundation of 2 to 4 feet of inundation above ground level.
I've lived here almost 40 years, and I've never evacuated, not yet.
The main concern for the evacuation this time, I believe, is just the road washing out and the people being stuck here for a few days.
The highway probably will wash out at somewhere between Wednesday afternoon and Thursday morning, but aside from that, I believe for the most part things will be all right. So it's a little bit of a hindrance, but you got to look where we live. This is what it is, so it's a trade-off.
Erin has become an unusually large and deceptively worrisome storm, with its tropical storm winds stretching 230 miles. Forecasters expect it will grow larger in size as it moves through the Atlantic and curls north. The International Space Station captured stunning views of Hurricane Erin traveling through the Caribbean on Tuesday. NASA says it flew 260 miles over the hurricane as it traveled northwest through the Caribbean with maximum sustained wind speeds of 105 miles per hour. It continued to lash the Turks and Caicos Islands on Tuesday, where government services were suspended a day earlier and residents were ordered to stay home. Erin is currently a Category 2 hurricane with maximum sustained winds of 100 miles per hour.
The National Hurricane Center this morning said swimming at most East Coast beaches will remain dangerous over the next few days due to the life-threatening rip currents. Daniel Monahan, NTD News.
Attorneys for Kilmar Abrego Garcia are asking a federal judge to throw out the human smuggling charges against him. They call the charges a case of vindictive and selective prosecution. Their claim alleges the Justice Department singled Garcia out after he challenged his wrongful deportation to El Salvador earlier this year. That challenge was successful, and he was brought back to the U.S. But now he's facing charges dating back to a 2022 traffic stop where he was discovered driving several undocumented men. The FBI knew about the incident but didn't charge him at the time. The Justice Department eventually filed charges earlier this year. His trial is set to begin in January. Garcia is expected to be released from custody in Tennessee later this week as he awaits trial. Once free, the federal government is court-ordered not to deport him again without a warning of 3 business days. Nebraska will soon be home to a new federal immigration detention center dubbed the Cornhusker Clink. It's part of the Trump administration's broader plan to expand deportation infrastructure nationwide. Here are the details.
Nebraska. Governor Jim Pillen announced Tuesday that Nebraska is partnering with the Department of Homeland Security to convert a minimum security work camp into a facility that will hold immigrants awaiting deportation. The facility, nicknamed the Cornhusker Clink, will be located in McCook, a rural town of about 7,000 people. Officials say it will house people awaiting deportation across the Midwest. Governor Pillen says the project is about keeping Nebraskans and Americans across the country safe. The governor also announced that about 20 members of the Nebraska National Guard will provide logistical and administrative support. The State Patrol will also sign an agreement with ICE to help make arrests. Some Nebraska lawmakers and residents are raising alarms. State Senator Megan Hunt criticized a lack of transparency about plans for the new center. She says Nebraska's governor has so far not provided her with emails and records she requested. The McCook site is not the first of its kind. It follows recently opened facilities in Florida and Indiana as the administration adds capacity to handle record immigration arrests. But those centers are facing lawsuits and criticism. In Florida, detainees at the so-called Alligator Alcatraz facility say they've endured poor conditions and limited access to attorneys. A federal judge in Miami Tuesday dismissed part of a lawsuit claiming detainees were denied access to immigration courts, but the judge allowed other claims, like limits on meetings with attorneys, to continue. Meanwhile, Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem spoke Tuesday in New Mexico about a broader national effort to combat illegal immigration, one that includes painting the entire southern border wall black.
That is specifically at the request of the president, who understands that in the hot temperatures down here, when something is painted black, it gets even warmer, and it will make it even harder for people to climb.
Noem says construction is moving quickly, with about half a mile of new wall going up each day.
House Republicans are investigating California's high-speed rail project. They're questioning whether officials misled taxpayers about costs and ridership numbers. House Oversight Committee Chair James Comer says the project is plagued by cost overruns, delays, and what he called absurdly high ridership projections. The rail line was originally approved in 2008 at an estimated $33 billion, but projected costs have now ballooned to as much as $128 billion. Comer says despite billions in state and federal support, no routes are complete, and service is now projected to begin in 2032. Governor Gavin Newsom has criticized the investigation, calling it an attack on jobs and a political stunt designed to punish California. The California High-Speed Rail Authority has also defended the project. A spokesperson told Fox News yesterday the investigation is baseless and that concerns about ridership are cherry-picked and out of date. A federal appeals court has struck down New Mexico's 7-day waiting period for gun purchases, ruling it unconstitutional. The law passed last year required buyers to wait a week after passing a background check before taking their firearm home. Judge Timothy Timkovich wrote that so-called cooling-off periods infringe on the Second Amendment and have no historical precedent. Governor Michelle Lujan Grisham called the ruling misguided, arguing waiting periods save lives by preventing impulsive acts. The National Rifle Association, which supported the lawsuit, said waiting period laws weaken gun control efforts across 6 western states. Other states still enforce waiting periods ranging from 3 days to Florida to 30 days in California. A dramatic explosion at a North Carolina veterinary clinic caught on camera. Police say it was the result of a hit and run. Authorities say the driver crashed into the building yesterday and ruptured a gas line before fleeing. As firefighters searched the building, gas ignited and a massive blast tore through the site. 3 firefighters were injured, including one with severe burns to hands and arms. Authorities say no civilians were inside, and crews quickly secured the gas leak and brought the fire under control. The driver was later arrested and facing charges including DWI and reckless driving. Target CEO Brian Cornell is stepping down. His resignation comes as the retailer struggles to weak sales amid increased competition. Chief Operating Officer Michael Fidelke will succeed Cornell. A 20-year company veteran, the CEO has overhauled Target's supply network. Fidelke has also expanded the company's locations and digital services while cutting costs. The change in leadership was announced Wednesday at the same time that Target reported another quarter of sluggish results. The company's stock was down more than 8% in pre-market trading. Cornell plans to step down in February. Coming up, the U.S. plans to build a nuclear reactor on the moon. Why the race back to the moon matters so much for the United States right now. We have that and more when we come back.
I don't remember how it started. Our back and forth. Victory. Fumble. Repeat. It always came back.
Okay, here we go, throw it!
Yeah. You probably don't remember what you told me.
That was perfect.
But I heard every word.
Nice.
You're so right for me, and I am right for you. I love the things you do, like sweet tasting wine. Your lips are so divine. Your loving turns me on. My lonely days are gone. That's why I'm never gonna let you go. Never gonna let you go. Babe, I'm never gonna let you go. No, no, never gonna let you go. Baby, never gonna let you go. Never gonna let you go.
Here you go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I was a quarterback at Hardaway High School, college first round draft pick, on and off the field. We were taught to not show any signs of weakness. During the football season, I would stop eating, but I didn't know I was depressed. I thought that something was wrong with me. For 20 plus years was physical. We didn't have any education behind what mental health was. I started to learn it starts here first. If this is together, I'll be better as a father, as a man, and as a husband. Put the importance on your mental health. I'm not scared to talk about it anymore. The first tool is therapy. The second one is positive self-talk. And then journaling, putting your thoughts on paper. We have to redefine what being a strong man is and heal, love your mind.
The United States is planning to build a nuclear reactor on the moon. Joining us now to discuss all about this is Rick Fisher, Senior Fellow on Asian Military Affairs at the International Assessment and Strategy Center. Rick has written extensively about the U.S.'s second race to the moon with China. Good afternoon, Rick. It's always great to see you. So first question I have is, why is the U.S. prioritizing this now? What is it trying to achieve? Why put a reactor on the moon?
Two reasons, Don. First, our astronauts are going to need power. The moon rotates. The lunar night actually lasts almost 8 days. And in that time, they won't be able to gather any solar power. So a nuclear reactor is very necessary in order to sustain our astronauts on the moon. And the second reason is geopolitical. A nuclear power plant allows you to declare a kind of exclusion zone. It's sort of, okay, this is kind of your territory. And this is also why Russia and China are racing to develop a lunar nuclear power station as well.
So correct me if I'm wrong on this. I don't know if this is the correct line of thinking, but is this in a way shifting the perception of the moon from a place to visit temporarily to a place of long-term operations?
Absolutely. Both China, Russia, and the United States are planning for basically permanent settlements on the moon. Moon bases, multiple moon bases, and these will be essential as we plan our projection to Mars.
Wow, what is the long-term mission in terms of space, the next frontier? What is the overall vision here for the United States?
Well, for China, the idea is if you control access to the moon and control access to Mars, you can reinforce political hegemony on Earth. For the United States, the idea is defending and preserving our access to the moon and Mars by building settlements there, making claims for areas that we control, and hopefully convincing China and Russia to work with us peacefully. But that's not guaranteed.
Specifically, what does America have to gain by being first to have nuclear power on the moon, Rick?
What we gain is the confidence of all of our partners, 55 members of the Artemis Accords Coalition, to join us in exploring and populating the moon and then Mars. we gain, of course, the prestige of remaining a leader in space. And we also get something of a leverage to convince China to go to the moon in peace.
So as you see it, what are some of the hurdles to overcome right now in this project? Are there any safety concerns of placing nuclear reactors on the moon?
Well, yes, one very large concern, and this is the design of the Chinese moon lander. It essentially comes in two stages: the manned cabin that lands on the moon, and then a propulsion stage, which you can see on the bottom of the manned moon lander. The propulsion stage takes the lander into lunar orbit and then gets it close to the moon. When it gets close enough, the propulsion stage detaches and then crashes into the moon. And I think you can see this is where the problem lies. The propulsion stage could first land on a Chinese or Russian nuclear power station, but if it's uncontrolled, it could land on ours as well.
So one point you brought up earlier that I found interesting is you brought up the idea of perhaps humans being on Mars or something similar to that. My question is, if nuclear power on the moon succeeds, what does that mean for humanity's broader ambitions in space?
Well, if it's successful and it works, that bodes very well for the human projection to the moon and then to Mars. We're going to need nuclear power until something else can adequately replace it. Nuclear power is reliable. The fuel lasts for a long time. It doesn't require access to the sun in order to obtain power.
So you wrote an article on the Epoch Times called "Don't Lose the Race Back to the Moon." Can you reiterate that point again? Why does the race back to the moon matter so much for the United States right now?
Well, it matters in order for the United States to maintain the leadership of the free world in its projection to the moon and beyond. That's of tremendous importance. But it's also important to get there first, to have at least that level of political leverage to convince China, whose space program is controlled by its People's Liberation Army, its military, to come to the moon in peace. Can we do so? I'm not sure, but we have to try.
Talk to us about the intersection of national security and space, as well as in the context of geopolitical competition.
They're intertwined, exactly. And I believe President Trump understands this, which is why he revived the American moon program that the Obama administration had canceled during his first term. He's sustaining the moon program and is looking to Mars. President Trump understands the geopolitics of space.
Can you paint a picture for us as to what would happen if the United States didn't win that race and China won the race back to the moon, for example?
Well, China would have a very powerful propaganda point. But if the United States recovered by getting to the moon soon afterwards, within a year or two, then the political damage may not be that great. The United States could have an early advantage in that our moon landers can carry much more cargo to the moon, and we can perhaps accelerate the construction of our lunar bases.
Okay, one final question, Rick. How much of a lead does the United States have right now over China, and how can the U.S. maintain that lead?
Well, if we maintain our currently acknowledged schedule, we may only have about a 2.5 year lead over the Chinese. But if our moon landers in development by the SpaceX Corporation and the Blue Origin Corporation are delayed or not successful, then that spells trouble for the United States. The Chinese are working with a much smaller, simpler moon lander, simpler technology, and they could get there first.
Well, okay, Rick, thank you for your time today. It was good to see you.
Thank you, sir.
Polish authorities say a military drone crashed in a cornfield in eastern Poland. The most recent incident comes as President Donald Trump attempts to negotiate an end to Russia's war in Ukraine. Poland has been on high alert since a stray Ukrainian missile struck a southern Polish village in 2022, killing 2 people. And India is facing a new scrutiny from the U.S. Treasury over its purchasing of sanctioned Russian oil. Secretary Scott Bessent yesterday accused the country of profiting from discounted Russian oil, calling the practice unacceptable. Bessent spoke to CNBC about just how much oil India is buying and reselling on global markets.
India had less than 1% of their oil, 1%, and now I believe it's up to 42. So
wow.
India is just profiteering, or they are just profiteering. They are reselling. They've made $16 billion in excess profits.
U.S. officials say India's purchases of discounted Russian oil are helping fund Russia's ongoing war against Ukraine. While India faces criticism from Washington, the country is also walking a tightrope as it tries to ease tensions with China. Talks in New Delhi between Indian officials and Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi focused on border de-escalation and trade, including access to rare earths. India's National Security Advisor says recent talks has helped improve the atmosphere.
I had a wonderful meeting in the last round in Beijing, and I'm very happy that since then, in the last about 9 months, there has been an upward trend. Borders have been quiet. There have been peace and tranquility. Our bilateral engagements have been more substantial.
China's rare earth and magnet exports surged in June, but India is still receiving 58% fewer shipments than in January. India has the 5th largest rare earth reserves, but doesn't make magnets, so it's still reliant on Chinese imports. During the talks, the two countries also aimed to ease tensions along the disputed Himalayan border in Ladakh. India's foreign minister emphasized the importance of both countries pulling back troops from frontline areas. Back in 2020, a deadly clash along the border between the two nations killed 20 Indian soldiers and 4 Chinese soldiers. Tensions began easing last October after a major agreement between the two countries to reduce military confrontations. Wang's visit comes just days before Prime Minister Modi's first trip to China in 7 years. There, he will attend the Shanghai Cooperation Organization Summit, a regional security and political group that includes Russia. Meanwhile, Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi's visit wasn't welcomed by everyone. Tibetan groups in India staged protests against Beijing's policies, calling for independence from China. Many Indians respect Tibet's spiritual leader, the Dalai Lama. He currently lives in exile in India. Some foreign policy experts say his presence gives New Delhi more leverage when dealing with Beijing.
Russia says it expects to continue supplying oil to India. That's despite warnings and additional tariffs from the United States. President Trump recently announced an additional 25% tariff on Indian goods as a punishment for buying Russian oil. But a Russian official today said that Moscow expects to export the same amount of oil to India as before. He says India and Russia will find ways to overcome Trump's latest tariffs. The Kremlin also hopes that trilateral talks will soon take place with India and China to forge a greater Eurasian partnership. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi plans to visit China for the first time in over 7 years later this month. China, Iran, and Russia have reportedly come up with a network to disguise their shipments of sanctioned crude oil. This is according to a report by the Financial Times published today. The newspaper reports that an Iranian man arranged naval mortgages on tankers back in 2019. These mortgages were supposed to act as security on shipping loans, but instead Iran used them as guarantees for oil trades. The Financial Times says that the network had over 30 tankers. They operated under separate shell companies with Chinese directors. Some of the directors had been sanctioned by the U.S. The network transported nearly $10 billion worth of sanctioned oil from Iran, Venezuela as well, and Russia this way between 2019 to 2023, according to the report. It said over 90% of the oil was destined for China. The Financial Times highlights in the report that the network shows how far such nations are able to go to bypass Western sanctions. Coming up, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy dressed up for his recent visit to the White House, but his designer said the dressing was not about fashion. Stay tuned.
Hi, I'm Amy Grant. I was living with a rare heart condition, and the doctor said if I didn't take care of it, it would become catastrophic. A few months later, I had open heart surgery that saved my life, and I owe it to the research and life-saving medical breakthroughs developed by the American Heart Association. Like so many women, I pushed through no matter what. But I've learned you have to take care of yourself in order to take care of other people.
I had a pretty normal mom life. Everything was pretty good, and it was a very happy life. I was given the diagnosis that I had peripartum cardiomyopathy, which is basically a pregnancy-induced heart failure. They told me my only chance was a heart transplant.
And the American Heart Association helped make that possible. Their research helped save me.
Please call now or go to helpheart.org. For only $19 a month, just 63 cents a day, you can help fund the next medical breakthrough, get the next person trained in CPR, and get the next hospital certified in high-quality cardiovascular care.
I am very thankful for the American Heart Association. I'm grateful for just every day that I get with my children.
Give $19 a month with your credit card, and we'll send you this special t-shirt you can wear to show you're part of a community of monthly donors working to help save more lives.
It's hard to imagine that a mom can die from pregnancy-induced heart failure, but thousands die every year. That's why your support is so urgently needed.
Any of us, every one of us, can make a modest monthly donation that actually helps and benefits everybody. Please call the number on your screen or go to helpheart.org now to become a monthly donor. Thank you.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me.
They're just young people, hungry, homeless, and vulnerable. Covenant House is helping young adults facing homelessness. We're providing safe shelter to thousands, but the need is overwhelming. Please call or go online now. With your gift of $19 a month, we'll send you this blanket as a reminder of the comfort your gift provides a young person tonight. You'll provide safe shelter, hot meals, and medical care. Call the number on your screen or go online to safeplacetosleep.org.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy wore a new black suit as he met with President Trump. It included a small detail, which is a black vent, which inched it closer to a civilian suit. Its Ukrainian designer called the vent a lucky charm, which worked to set a warm tone for the meeting. Here's the story.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy sported a black suit during his meeting with U.S. President Donald Trump in Washington on Monday, drawing compliments from both Trump and a reporter.
You look fabulous in that suit.
That same reporter in February criticized Zelenskyy's usual attire, a dark military-style outfit.
You own a suit?
Yeah, I have problems.
The designer of Zelenskyy's suit, Viktor Anisimov from Chernihiv, Ukraine, says the February jabs were not only a hit to the president, but also to Ukrainian citizens.
I took it easy in February, thinking how stupid they are, these people who ask such questions. But I understand that bombs don't fall on their heads. For them, clothes are important things. But for us, clothes are clothes. A suit is a suit. A leader should look dignified. And that's it.
For Zelenskyy's Monday meeting, Anisimov says he included a subtle detail, a back vent that nudged it closer to civilian wear.
These are our hopes for peace. We think that if we add a little something subtle to this image, something from civilian clothes to his uniform, then it will be our lucky charm.
The suit was originally presented as an outfit idea for the upcoming Ukrainian Independence Day, but Anisimov said the president needed it for his U.S. trip. The Ukrainian president also wore Anisimov's designs to the Pope's funeral and the NATO summit in June, both events that helped bring the U.S. and Ukraine closer together after the public rift in February. Zelenskyy has worn military-type outfits, often with collarless shirts and heavy boots, to show solidarity with Ukraine's troops since Russia's full-scale invasion in February 2022.
Fan Week is underway at the U.S. Open in Queens, New York. Tennis fans can enjoy family activities and watch players practice free of charge. And this year, the official mixed doubles Grand Slam tournament was moved to Fan Week. The change gives the event its own spotlight outside a schedule dominated by singles matches. Spectators are reacting to the change.
We're really excited. We heard it was like the Hollywood of mixed doubles. So my son, who's 13, is a real good tennis player, and we're hoping to get him excited by watching all these great names playing mixed doubles, get him on the court out with me a little more. But he and Dad are avid tennis players, playing forever. So first time at the U.S. Open, this event made it so simple for us to come out here.
It's nice to see everyone gathering around to see a sport that everyone is enjoying. It's not just, associated with one thing or another. It's literally coming together in a way where we're all enjoying the same exact sport.
This year's format featured 8 entries based on the combined singles rankings and 8 wildcards. This left some doubles competitors frustrated but succeeded in bringing a sellout crowd to Arthur Ashe Stadium. Fan Week is free to the public and continues all week before the main tournament begins on Sunday. Local Japanese media reported the sighting of a fireball late last night in the city of Kagoshima. Dashcam footage captured the moment when the ball of light briefly lit up the night sky. The bright object was also seen in various parts of Kyushu and Shikoku. The director of Sendai Space Museum described the fireball as a phenomenon where dust particles or asteroid fragments glow brightly as they burn up in the Earth's atmosphere. Coming up, the Democratic Party is testing a new program to modernize campaign operations. How much does technology impact the outcome of elections? Find out more after the break.
Shen Yun Creations, the streaming platform from Shen Yun, featuring world-class dance, past programs, and all original music. Masterclasses, behind the scenes, comedy, and more. Explore shenyuncreations.com.
Big things are happening at Mathis Home. Get Labor Day deals and save on everything for your home. They have hundreds of sofas and sectionals with styles you love at unbeatable prices, and they're the only place with top name recliners starting at just $199. Check out the latest looks in bedrooms and dining rooms and save big. Plus, you don't have to wait. They're all in stock with fast and easy financing and free delivery. Don't miss out. These Labor Day deals are happening now in every department at your furniture superstore, Mathis Home.
Is deep-sea fish oil really healthy? Due to pollution in the oceans, most fish contain heavy metal elements and radioactive substances. That's why it's so important to choose a pure source of omega-3. Puritang Green Vegetable Omega-3 is made from purslane and perilla seeds, which are rich in nutrients and minerals, especially vitamins A, D, E, calcium, and iron. With natural processing and no harmful chemical additives, it has more than 90% concentration of omegas 3, 6, 7, and 9. It effectively improves brain power and is beneficial to the heart's health. Puritang Omega-3 does not smell of fish and contains no pollutants, so both adults and children can safely and easily consume it over a long period of time. Puritang Green Vegetable Omega-3. Greener, healthier, and more effective. Visit puritang.com to learn more.
The bladder control aisle. You won't shop here again. Your private business is your own.
The constant struggle is over. Now there's a better way. It's HDIS. We home deliver bladder control products. We understand how you feel.